بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والحمد لله الذي فطر خلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته والصلاة والسلام على الإمام القبلتين ونبي الحرمين وأفضل الثقلين وجد الحسن والحسين الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد. وعلى آل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين والذين ذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، يكون الله في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. For the protection of the believers wherever they may be, particularly the mourners for Abi Abdullah al-Hussein, and for the hastening of the reappearance of the master of our time, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. When one examines world history and they look at all of the different religious movements which have arisen over time, they'll notice that Islam is the last transcendental religion to arise, which has transcended spatial location and time. There have been religious movements that have been limited to a particular time. They've been limited to a particular location. But Islam is the last religion to come on this earth, which has transcended both of these dimensions. And this is why you find that when you look at other religions, they have a similar reality, although they were distorted at one point. The Quran says in chapter 3, verse 19, Inna deena indallahi al-Islam, the religion with Allah is Islam. That although the Shariat was different, each prophet, Adam, Nuh, Musa, Ibrahim, Isa, each of them were sent with Islam. That's why when you look within the Quran, every time the word deen comes up within the Quran, it's in the singular. Never do you find the word adyan in the plural within the Quran. Because that source of light, that essence has always been the same. That you look similarly, you look at the word nur. Within the Quran, nur is always in the singular. Anwar, the plural of nur, is never found. Because the face of truth has remained the same, where it is darkness and oppression which changes its forms. That's why you look at Imam al-Hussein, that throughout time, Husseiniyyat has remained the same. Throughout time, the movement of Imam al-Hussein is a movement which each particular prophet, they hinted towards this movement. But you find that what was the perfection of these movements? That 124,000 prophets came, but the perfection of their message, it only happened with the message of Khatam al-Nabiyyin Rasulallah. But the perfection of the message of Rasulullah that ensured that this message will survive until the day of judgment, it happened with the official announcement of Amirul Mu'mineen on the day of Ghadeer, when the Quran says, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. But the question comes up, then you go towards Karbala. It was on the day of Ashura where the message of Ghadeer was on the line. Then you have Zainab, who saved the remembrance of Karbala. that this is the power of Sayyidah Zainab. That when you look within Islamic history, there have been two pairs of mother-daughters who are essential for the survival of Islam. The first pair was Bibi Khadija and her daughter Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha. The second pair was Sayyidah Fatima and her daughter Sayyidah Zainab. You look in between these pairs, there's Astaana-e-Zehra. That's why I say that Fatima is the daughter of that mother who established the foundations of La ilaha illallah. And she is the mother of that daughter who helped save the concept of La ilaha illallah. That this is that Sayyidah Zainab. That as I mentioned on that day, when you look from one side, you look towards the other side, the side of Yazid and the side of Imam al-Hussein. One side was following a hollow shell of Islam. They were following an Islam that outwardly it was real ritualistic, but there was no spirituality and no essence within it. And then you had the other side which was following the true Islam. But the reason they were able to maintain on that Islam is because they kept the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt upon that side. It's because the message of Ghadeer was upon that side. It is Ghadeer that teaches somebody the loyalty of Habib. It is Ghadeer that teaches somebody the loyalty of Qasim and Abbas. This is the reality of that Ghadeer. And as I mentioned in this introduction, that there is this deep connection between the day of Ashura and the event of Ghadeer. And this is why the topic for today's majlis is the link between Karbala and Ghadeer. That not only is this a theoretical topic, you find that both of these events, they serve a practical benefit within our lives when we develop ourselves personally and at the communal level when we are building unity. Because you find there is a difference when our children go astray and other children go astray. When from other thoughts they go astray, they have nothing to pull them back. But when our children, they go off the track, number one, they have the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen that can bring him back. The other is they have the dua of Astaana-e-Zehra and this azadari which can bring them back. In this majlis, I'll keep the section of Fadail short because tonight is the majlis for that lady who is Masad. So what is this first connection between Ghadeer and Karbala? The first connection between Ghadeer and Karbala is that both of these events, they serve the same purpose. What do I mean? When I say Ghadeer and Karbala serve the same purpose, why? Because the goal of Ghadeer was to preserve Islam until the day of judgment. Karbala indirectly is the preservation of that wilayah. Karbala is preserving Islam until the day of judgment. You know, the Prophet has this famous hadith. This hadith which became a foundation for Islamic thought. That he said, the haram of Muhammad is haram until the day of judgment. And the halal of Muhammad is halal until the day of judgment. And whenever you find that changes are coming up, there needed to be an institution that would save and prevent these changes from happening. At the first level, you had Ghadeer, which ensured this. At the second level, when the people, they forgot Ghadeer, Karbala ensured that that remembrance, it would remain alive. That's why you have responsibilities as well, that when we sit on this Farshe Azar, that when we remember the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, there's been a countless number of blood which has been shed for us to be over here. That it's not that simple, that this school of thought hasn't reached us very simply. There's been sacrifice after sacrifice which is made. Within that time period, the sacrifice may have been with their lives. Today, the sacrifice is with the heart of a mu'min. That when you have these spiritual storms against you, against the humanity of a human being and the progression of a human being, Any day an individual stays on the path of Amir al-Mu'mineen is a day he has succeeded within his wilayah. You know, Amir al-Mu'mineen used to say, that day in which you do not sin is a day of Eid for you. And I add on to that, because the standard of wilayah is even higher than that. The day if somebody follows the footsteps of Ali ibn Abi Talib, that day is Eid al-Ghadeer for that individual. That this is that reality, and this is that first level. The second connection between Ghadeer and Karbala is what? Is that both Ghadeer and Karbala played a part in the preservation of the Quran, and they have a strong linkage with the Quran. That when you look within the Quran, you find that the event of Ghadeer is there. We know the ayat. For example, it says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuhar Rasul, balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik. But when you look at Karbala, you find Karbala is within this Quran as well, where it says, وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْهٍ عَظِيمٍ. And we ransomed him with that great sacrifice. You know, some people, they came forth and they said that when Ibrahim was sacrificing Ismail, and Ismail was ransomed with that ram which came, they said that that ram is Zibhin Azim, it's that great sacrifice. You know who was being sacrificed? A prophet of God. For it to be considered a great ransom, you would find that that individual has to be greater than that prophet of God. This is Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. This is that connection which these individuals had with the Quran. For if it wasn't the message of Ghadeer and the day of Ashura, you find that the message of the Quran would have been lost. Then you know there's a fundamental difference between when Rasulullah stood up for the Quran and when Ahlul Bayt stood up for the Quran. In the time period of Rasulullah, the discussion was over the tanzeel and the revelation of the Quran. In the time period of Ahlul Bayt, the battle was over the ta'wil and the interpretation of the Quran. You know, it was the day of Siffin, right? On one side was the banner of Muawiyah, on the other side was the banner of Ali. Ammar, he looks towards one side, he looks towards the other. He says to an individual that you see that banner on the side of Muawiyah, that banner was on the side of Abu Sufyan when Abu Sufyan was alive. And you see that banner on the side of Ali, that banner was with Rasulullah when Rasulullah was alive. But there is a difference between then and now. The difference is that then the battle was over the revelation of the Quran. Now the battle is over the interpretation of the Quran. You know, that's why on that day of Siffin, when they put the Quran on the spear, they came towards Amir al-Mu'mineen. They said, Ya Ali, stop the battle. They have Qur'ans upon the spears. Amir al-Mu'mineen replies by saying, you want to stop the battle because those Qur'an are upon the spears? I am the Qur'an al-Natiq and I'm commanding you to continue to fight. That this is that reality, that Amir al-Mu'mineen is that entity that saved the Quran. And you find within that time period afterward, that Imam al-Hussein is that individual who did the same. That when you see the head of Imam al-Hussein upon a spear, and he recites, Am hasibta anna ashab al-kahfi wa raqimi kanu min ayatina ajab. That do you think the people of the cave and the inscription were an astonishing sign of Allah? That I am reciting the Quran upon a spear while my head has been cut. That's why there is a difference between those individuals that would put a Quran upon the spear and the difference between Ahlul Bayt. That they would put Qurans upon the spear, Ahlul Bayt, even if their head is cut, they'll recite the Quran upon the spear. That this is that reality on the second level. The third connection between Ghadeer and Karbala is what? Is that both Ghadeer and Karbala have served a universal and humanitarian purpose. That when you're spreading Islam amongst others, that you have two great tools. The first tool is the wilayah and the message of Amir al-Mu'mineen. The other is Karbala. What do I mean? You find that Rasulullah famously said, Inna al-Husayn misbahul huda wa safinatun najat. Yesterday I analyzed the second half of this hadith. But when it says that Hussein is the lamp of guidance, you know, you take a dark room, you place a candle within that room, everyone who is within the room, they will benefit, they'll see that candle. That some people will be so close to the source that they feel the heat of the candle. But even if you're far away, you'll see that candle. Hussein is that individual, he is the lamp of guidance. Those who follow his wilayat and his path, they feel the heat of that candle. But if you are a human being, you can still benefit from Hussein. You know what Misbah al-Huda means? Within that time period, you find that within their houses, they didn't have electricity, of course. They would keep a lamp. That lamp would be called Misbah. Why? Because you find when a thief would come into the house, they would bring this lamp out, expose the face of that thief. Hussein is the lamp of guidance. Whenever anyone brings deviation within the religion, Hussein is that light that exposes the face of that tyrant. That Hussein is that light which exposes the face of that tyrant. Hussein is that individual that presents humanity to mankind. That you look at somebody like Antoine Barrow, who is a Christian. Antoine Barrow would say that if Hussein belonged to us, the Christians, we would have minarets with the name of Hussein upon them, and we would invite people to the way of Christianity. You know, you look in different cultures, even when you go to India. There was a village in India within the Qutb Shahi rule. Within that time period, there was a caste system over there. And of course, when the Hindus have the caste system, they can't intermingle. But within that village, there was one time of the year that everyone could intermingle regardless of the caste which they belonged to. You know what time that was? That was when the moon of Muharram was sighted. This is the power of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. And the sad reality is that if non-Muslims can unite upon the name of Imam al-Hussein, why can't the followers of Ahlul Bayt not unite upon the name of Hussein? That's a sad reality, and within this time period, this is the most important message I can give from this mimbar right now. That this is the time period of unity. When you have outside forces against you, you find comfort within your home. Our comfort is these masajid, these Imam Bargas, where the name of Imam al-Hussein is remembered. That this is that reality. But you find in the same way, that Karbala, we know about the universal nature at one level, but you find the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen has that universal nature. You look at individual after individual who gained inspiration from Amir al-Mu'mineen. You know, you heard the name George Jordak. He writes Sawta Adalatul Insaniya, but people, what they don't know about him is how he came to be a lover of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says that I had a friend. He was a follower of Ahlul Bayt. He gave me Nahjul Balagha. When he gave me Nahjul Balagha, and that's a productive friendship right there, that they exchange thoughts, ideas, instead of wasting their time. He gives them Nahjul Balagha. He says, I opened up Nahjul Balagha. When I opened up Nahjul Balagha, I saw there was some scientific discovery in there which hadn't been established yet. So I closed Nahjul Balagha and I decided I'll never open it again. He says later on, I was watching television. And as I was watching television, it was a program about science. And what discovery they presented, it immediately hit me that Ali ibn Abi Talib 1400 years ago had mentioned it within that book. So I began to read that book. When I started reading that book from my mid-30s to the end of my life, I read that book over 200 times, and each time I gained something new which I didn't gain before. That this is that power of Amir al-Mu'mineen and that universal dimension which Karbala and the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen share. You know, there was a professor, he was in comparative studies, his name is Thomas McKelvin. He wrote a book in which he tried to establish Ghadeer from the Bible, and it's available today in English as well. You know, they said to him that you became a Muslim. What made you become a Muslim? He says, I don't believe it's possible for anyone to read the correct translation of the Quran with heart and not become a Muslim. They said to him, now that you're a Muslim, you're going to have to join a sect of Islam. There's various sects within Islam. He says, I want to join that sect in which Ali is one. They say to him, why do you want to join that sect? He says, I don't believe anyone can recite a portion of Nahjul Balagha, not all of Nahjul Balagha. a portion of Najul Balagha and decide not to follow this individual. They say to him, your name is Thomas McElvin. You become a Muslim. You have to pick a new name. He says, I know which name I want. I want to change my name to Ali Haidar. To change my name to Ali Haidar. What's the next connection between Ghadeer and Karbala? And I said this majlis is a majlis of musibah, and there's a limited time slot, so I'm going to move quickly and I'm going to end upon this note. The last connection between Ghadeer and Karbala is that if Ghadeer was remembered, there would be no need for Karbala. That our 8th Imam, they saw our 8th Imam, he was crying upon the streets. They said to him that, how long are you going to cry? He says, the reason I cry is for Imam al-Hussein, is that I don't want people to forget Ashura in the way they had forgotten Ghadeer. That I don't want them to forget Ashura in the way they had forgotten Ghadeer. That this is that connection between these two. But there was one lady, I remember a poet, he would say, that what is the difference between Ghadeer and Karbala? That on the day of Ghadeer, the circumstances weren't there for Zainab to save Ghadeer. But Karbala, Zainab is that individual who saved the message of Imam al-Hussein. Before I get into Musibah, just one line on the Fadail of Bibi Zainab. When Bibi Zainab, she goes into the court of Yazid, there's 700 individuals within that courtyard. She begins to speak. When she speaks to Yazid, she starts her famous sermon within that courtyard. When she starts her famous sermon, there's one line which I want to mention. She says to Yazid, Ya Yazid, la tamhu dhikrana. Oh Yazid, you'll never be able to erase our remembrance, oh Yazid. Now imagine within that circumstances, one lady is a captive, her hands are tied. She's saying to Yazid, you'll never be able to erase our remembrance. The one line before I come to Musibah. Listen to this and then we'll pour our hearts out for Sayyidah Zainab. But listen to this one line. You find that within that time period nobody understood. But you look throughout the world, every corner of the world, Imam al-Hussein is remembered today. That the more they tried to suppress this azadari, have you ever seen a spring? When you press a spring, that spring, it bounces back. The more they tried to suppress this azadari, the more this azadari, it began to spread to every corner of the world. That you look within the world today, where is Mutawakkil but Hussein is remembered? That Saddam for year after year, he would stop people from going towards Karbala. Today 30 million are going towards Karbala. And the biggest dalil I can give is Sayyidah Zainab. Zainab was a captive within the capital of Yazid, Damascus. Today nobody knows where the grave of Yazid is. But you see signs within that city that say, welcome to the city of Sayyidah Zainab. That you see signs within that city. I see tears are falling. They say that when tears they fall, you recite Musibah. That this is the Musibah of that lady with Ummul Masah. When they were in Kufa, Sayyidah, she was giving a khutbah in Kufa. There was a companion of Amir al-Mu'mineen who was blind. His name was Abdullah. His one eye became blind in Jamal. The other eye became blind in Siffin. Sayyidah Zainab, she was giving her khutbah. As she was giving her khutbah, he says, who is that lady who's speaking? It's as if Ali is speaking, but it's been 20 years since Ali has passed away. Ayatollah Muhammad Mirza Shirazi, somebody was reciting Musibah in front of him. The reciter, he said, دخلت زينب على ابن زياد. Zainab has entered the court of Ibn Ziyad. Ayatollah Shirazi says, repeat the line. He says, Zainab has entered the court of Ibn Ziyad. He says, Zainab, the daughter of Ali. He falls unconscious. They say to him, why do you fall unconscious? He says, I kept thinking, what did Syed al-Sajjad think when he saw Zainab in the court? That which Zainab is this? You know, this is that Zainab whom separation from her brother was the hardest thing for that Zainab. You know, when Sayyidah Zainab was born, she would cry, she would cry. Sayyidah Fatima went towards Rasulullah. Rasulullah says, oh Fatima, is everything okay? She says, everything is okay, but this daughter of mine, she keeps crying. But the only time she stops is when I take her by Hussein. Rasulullah says, oh Fatima, this is that daughter of yours who will be with Hussein in Karbala. Every moment of her life was for Hussein. You know, when Sayyidah Zainab got married, there were two conditions upon her marriage. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Abdullah, there are two conditions. The first condition is that you let Zainab do the ziyarat of Hussein 2 times every day. The other condition is that when this caravan it leaves for Karbala, you give Zainab permission to go. You find Zainab, she goes towards Karbala. She's getting on and Muhammad ready upon that day. Listen to the loyalty of Zainab to her brother Hussein. She says, oh on? Oh Muhammad, I know you're the grandchildren of Jafar al-Tayyar. I know you're the grandchildren of Haider al-Karrar. I know you'll reach the Furat. But when you get to the Furat, don't drink from the Furat until Sakina and Ali Asghar. Until Sakina and Ali Asghar have drunk from the Furat. You find these children are fighting. As they're fighting, they hit the ground. They call for their uncles. From one side Hazrat Abbas comes. From the other side Imam al-Hussein comes. Imam, he says to them that, do you have any final wasiyah for your mother? They said, tell our mothers, we fought, we went towards the Furat. But when we got to the Furat, we remembered Sakina. We remembered Ali Asghar. We didn't drink from that Furat. This is that Zainab. But the real musibah of Zainab, the real musibah of Zainab wasn't on in Muhammad's Shahadat. It was that final farewell from her brother Hussein. You know, when Imam al-Hussein, he was leaving for the plains of Karbala. He says, oh Mother Fidda, bring me that shirt which our mother Fatima had made for me for this day. But oh Mother Fidda, don't let anyone see this shirt. Don't let Zainab see this shirt. When Fidda, she went to go get that shirt, Sayyidah Zainab says, oh Mother Fidda, what is within your hand? Fidda, she says, this is that shirt of Hussein with your mother Fatima had made for this day. Sayyidah Zainab says, oh Mother Fidda, why didn't you tell me this is the kafan of Hussein? Why didn't you tell me? This is that kafan of Hussein. You find the Imam, he's leaving. As he's leaving, you find he looks towards the right. He looks towards the left. He wants to get on Zuljana. He says, oh Akbar, oh Abbas, when you were leaving, I helped you upon your horse. Who is there to help me upon this day? Sayyidah Zainab, she comes out. She says, oh my brother, Zainab is alive to help you. You find the Imam, he's upon Zuljana. He's leaving towards the Maqtal. As he's leaving one more time, Sayyidah Zainab, she comes. She says, Mahlan, Mahlan, Yabna Zahra. Oh stop, oh son of Zahra. She says, oh my brother, when our mother Fatima was passing away, she made one wasiyah towards me, that when Hussein goes on the day of Ashura, kiss the neck of Hussein, for the sword will be upon that neck. You find the Imam, he replies, he says, oh Zainab, when her father Ali was passing away, he also made one wasiyah. He said that when you go, kiss the arms of Zainab, for those arms will be tied in Kufa and Sham. This is the musibah of Sayyida Zainab. Just a few more lines. If it wasn't the musibah of Sayyida Zainab, I wouldn't recite within this kind of detail and length. But if we don't cry upon this night, which night will we cry for Sayyida Zainab? You find it was the 11th of Muharram. As I mentioned, she made one request to Shimar yesterday. I mentioned this. She said, don't take us in between the bodies. Shimari takes them in between the bodies. The first lady who only went to the body of Imam al-Hussein was Rabab, as I said. But the other lady was Sayyida Zainab. You know, when she went towards the body of her brother, this one line is enough for musibah. She goes up towards that body. Her hands are tied behind her neck. She looks at that cut body. She says, are you my brother Hussein? She looks towards Medina. She says, Assalamu alayka, Ya Rasulallah, Hadha al-Hussein. Oh Rasulallah, this is your Hussein who is covered in wounds. This is your Hussein whose neck has been cut upon that day. She stands by that body. She repeats one line. She keeps saying, Allahumma taqabbal minna hadha al-qurban. But this is leaving Karbala, that they go from Kufa to Sham, but then they return back towards Karbala on the day of when they return on the day of Arba'een, that this was one of the most difficult moments for Sayyida Zainab. That you find that each Bibi, she would call out for her beloved. Kulthum would say, Ya Abbas. Layla would say, O Akbar. Rabab would say, oh Asghar. But you find that Sayyida Zainab would walk slowly to the grave of her brother. I say, oh Sayyida, why don't you run towards the grave? Why are you walking so slowly? She comes to the grave. She says, oh Bhaiya, oh my brother, forgive me. I say, oh Sayyida, why are you asking for forgiveness? She says, oh my brother, you gave me an amanat. You gave me a trust. I left that amanat in the prison of Sham. But you find after that, she says to her nephew, oh Sayyid Sajjad, where is the grave of my brother Abbas? She goes towards the grave of Abbas. She stops all of the women. She says, oh women, tell Abbas everything. Tell Abbas we went to the court of Yazid. Tell Abbas our hijab was taken. Tell Abbas we were on one rope. But don't tell Abbas we love Sakina and Shah. Don't tell Abbas we love Sakina and Shah. على لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين. You know, there was a scholar. He saw Imam al-Zaman in his dream. He said, oh Mawla, do you have a message for your Shia? The Imam said, I have one message. That whenever they pray for my reappearance, ask through the wasila of my aunt Zainab, for Allah, He never rejects that wasila. Which Zainab is this? This is that Zainab. When she would cry for the grandfather of Imam al-Zaman, her brother Imam al-Hussein. That in Karbala, she didn't cry for Aun and Muhammad. In Kufa, she didn't cry. In Sham, she didn't cry. But the moment she cried is when they returned towards Medina. When she enters her home, Abdullah says, oh lady, oh old lady, oh weakened lady, Ya Zaifa, who are you? Zainab isn't here right now. She says, oh Abdullah, have you even forgotten Zainab, oh Abdullah? This is what happened after Karbala, that he couldn't even recognize Sayyidah Zainab. But the moment Zainab cries is when she goes in towards that room of Anan Muhammad. She sees the musalla upon the ground. When she sees the musalla, she says, oh no, Muhammad, forgive your mother Zainab. Forgive your mother Zainab. I promised my mother Fatima that I would only cry for Hussein. Ya Allah, we ask through the right of that Zainab, that wherever the followers of Ahlul Bayt are oppressed, help them. Wherever the followers of Ahlul Bayt are sick and ailing, cure them. Ya Allah, we pray for the rebuilding of those broken graves in Jannatul Baqi. Ya Allah, we pray for the protection of our shrines, and above all, every dua of our ends, with the dua for the reappearance of the master of our time. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. صَلُّوا عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَآلِ مُحَمَّدٍ.